Ever wonder where Hawaii's drinking water comes from and why there's so few private wells? We'll talk about that coming up next. Hey, what's going on, friends? I always get asked, where does Hawaii's drinking water come from and why do so many people use catchment water versus having wells? And so if you live on the Big Island, there's about 30 to 60,000 people that live off of catchment water. So that's rainwater that falls on your roof, goes into a catchment tank. There's a filtration system that will filter that water before it comes back and pumped it back into the house. And in most cases, works very well. There's tens of thousands of people that live on catchment water. And the reason for that is our water infrastructure doesn't span the whole island. So if you want to be on county provided water, you got to be in more populated areas. A lot of the rural areas don't have catchment water or don't have county water. And I get asked all the time, well, why is that, right? Why don't people just drill private wells like many places in the mainland to get their water? And the reason is because Hawaii is somewhat unique in its makeup of being an island and how we get our groundwater. And so I have this graphic here, which we're going to talk through, that explains this and shows where our drinking water comes from, our county provided drinking water comes from, and why people don't drill private wells. There are a few, you'll come across them once in a while, but it's very rare, and it's the short answer is it's cost prohibitive. So if you look at this cross section of the island, right, this is the island up here, this is the rain falling on the island, that's what recharges the freshwater table. And so if you look at the island where the ocean is, there is salt water that seeps into the lower parts of the island, and then there's a brackish water transition zone, and then the freshwater sits as a lens on top of that transition zone. And that's what we have to do to get to. We have to drill down to get to that fresh water, and that's the water that is then pumped back up and distributed to homes for the water supply. But if you look at this and you look at the scale over here of feet, if you look at where they drill a supply well from, you're looking at about 1,000 feet, maybe a little bit above 1,000 feet is where you have to start, and then you have to drill down to sea level and then below that. So a lot of times you got to be drilling 1,500 feet down to get to this freshwater table. And the reality of doing that on an individual basis is extremely expensive. And so it's not like in the mainland where you can drill down maybe 200 feet and get to groundwater and then pump it back up. It's a lot deeper. And the reason for that is where the island has a lower elevation, a lot of times you're going to get brackish water. It's not going to be fresh water. And so you have to go further up into the mountains. And if you're familiar with the island, really all of our wells where they've drilled to pump fresh water up are along the upper highways, around 1,000 feet. And so that's the short answer on why the water here is so expensive to get to, and really only the county, the government has the resources to drill and maintain those wells, because obviously you need a much bigger pumping system to get that water up, and then large storage tanks in order to store that water and distribute it. So it's very cost prohibitive to do this on a private level, and definitely no individual homeowner is going to do it. But the good news here is that the water that is provided by the county is extremely, extremely clean. And that's because of the makeup of how our groundwater gets to the fresh water table. And if you look at when the rain falls on the mountains and goes through the volcanic rock, it filters through that volcanic rock. It takes tens of thousands of years to get down to the freshwater table. So a lot of people come here and say the water tastes really good or it seems very fresh. I mean, that's definitely true because the water has been percolating through the island and the volcanic rock in the island for tens of thousands of years before it gets to the freshwater table that is then pumped back up and used for our drinking water. So this is the short story. Nice little graphic here I found on the Board of Water Supply website. But if you're wondering, or you want to drill a well and not use catchment water, it's probably not going to happen unless you have a lot of money to spend. So if you have any questions about this, you can always email me at dylan@buybigisland.com. There is a link in the description below if you want to book a meeting and talk about your plans. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Aloha.